Well, welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. Well, spring is finally springified. About 70 today. It's amazing. Less than a week ago it was freezing at night. But anyway, we had a little bump in the temp here. It's supposed to go back down again. But last week, my buddy, Mr. Randy, gave me a call and said, "Hey, my neighbor's taken down a couple of trees. Do you want all the wood?" And since I was behind on my firewood, I said, "You bet." So I went over and got a bunch of it, and got both trees actually. And one of them I believe is a pine. This one here, I'm not sure exactly what it is. He thought it might be maple. But if it is, that's the toughest wood I've ever cut. When I went over to get it, I took my McCulloch ProMax 650, which is a nice powerful saw and a nice sharp chain on it. And I had trouble cutting through it actually. I would do two things. Once you started cutting through it, like this, it would spring back and pinch the bar, and so I was fighting that. And then, you know, the length of the bar is 24, and the tree was actually bigger than that, so I had to do a finish cut on the far side, and you got a 3/8 skip tooth, and nice and sharp. But that's weird because there's only two times where I was cutting on any of the trees over the years where I actually was stalling the chain. But there again, I was pinching it. And even though it was a cool day, the saw was getting pretty hot, and I did a bunch of slices one after another through the big thick stuff. And then I set the saw down, went to restart it, wouldn't start. So I knew it vapor locked. That's one of the few drawbacks of this old design like this. The carburetor sits right on top of the crankcase, and the spacer on it is only about 1/8 of an inch thick to keep the heat out of the carburetor. So heat rises and boils the fuel, this crappy fuel we have today. And then so I had to prime it to get it started again, but no big deal. But that's the hardest workout this saw's had in years and years. So anyway, I'm going to show you how hard this is. I actually had to cut into it about a little over halfway down here with the saw so I could split it. I mean, using an axe on this almost won't split it. Now these are originally about this thick, and they were so heavy that my son and I couldn't lift them into the back of the truck, so I cut them in half, and then I cut down a little over halfway here with the saw, chainsaw, so I can get a wedge in here and try to split this. But even with that, and this nice big heavy old vintage diamond hammer that I've got here, it still is hard to split. So anyway, that's some tough wood. And so now this piece here is going to be my new splitting stump, since this one is pretty well done for. But it lasted me about 15 years. So now we're going to come over to the splitter, hydraulic splitter here, a little Flowtron, and I'll show you how hard this wood is to split. But before I do that, I highlighted the grain structure here. You can see it comes over and goes straight here and curves over here and curves off here. And even splitting this piece with a axe is quite difficult. So anyway, be right back. Well, we'll start up the mighty Flowtron here. That's some nasty tough wood. Since this thing is only 43 years old, I want it to last another 43, so I'm not going to use this to split this wood. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take the rounds like this, and I'll cut them so they're only about that thick, and then I'll be able to split them with an axe and use cookies in the stove, which works really good. So, okay, well, here's a regular piece of the tree there. You saw how that one exploded. Well, this one I'm going to show you, even though it's pretty good size. Now, even this little lowly 3.5 horsepower splitter can do the job. Well, you can see the big knot here, and you can hear it still explode, but not so dramatic as the other stuff. But like I say, the grain structure on this stuff is super weird. Straight right here, comes over, wanders all over and over here, wiggly, clear up and straight at the very, very top here. But anyway, you can see even at a minimal splitter, I think this is about the smallest ever made with a gas engine. Still really efficient, works great. Like I say, it's only 43 years old. What we're going to do now, I'm going to talk about this briefly. Splitting block here is total junk. This is my replacement. And the thing I did on this originally was a mistake. I never treated the wood, and I left the bark on it. And the bark started to rot off after years and years and started working its way in. Then moisture come up from the bottom. So I'll be right back and show you what I'm going to do. Well, here's what I'm going to do to treat it. In here I've got some abused motor oil. And I've got about 10% gas in it also. And what I mainly use this for is starting brush piles and whatnot, but it also works really great for this. The gas thins it out so it soaks in a whole lot better. You can see that penetrates right in really quickly with a little bit of gas in there. So I'll treat this about every 2-3 days until it quits soaking in so quickly. Then what I'll do when I get the bark off it and whatnot and get it situated to be in my spot for splitting right here, I'll get some gravel and put down underneath it to help preserve it. Anyway, we got some more projects and stuff, so we'll be back. So smaller stuff we've got put away here already. And the small pieces like this, the grain structure on this is straight. And I was actually able to split this with a 6-pound axe. So use my double bit plumb and slice right through it. But anyway, I'm back with more. Well, our next little project here is kind of unusual because we're going to be using something that's not antique or vintage. We're going to be using something semi-modern, even though this is a fairly old one. It's our little Mantis Tiller we've had in other videos. And the reason I have it was a gift. Some really kind and generous people gave us a whole bunch of equipment that their relatives didn't want, and this thing was basically new. So anyway, I get some nice fresh year-old gas in it, so let's see how it starts. I already primed it, so pull the choke on here. See how it does. Here, Ringy. Okay, well, if you look down here, all this white stuff here is perlite. And I also have fertilizer in here. That's what I'm mulching in. And the reason I use a lot of perlite, when I got this soil originally, had a lot of gravel in it, and also a lot of clay. And over the years, I've put a lot of different things in it, peat moss and more perlite, and things like that. And you can see that it's really nice stuff now. It took a long time, just even a couple of years ago, if I took a little shovel and stuck in there and pulled back on it, would bend it in half. So you can see now, that's really nice stuff. So anyway, I'll finish tilling and we'll be back. And there you go, it does a mighty fine job. So, since this is not vintage, I have a Mary tiller from the 50s that I'm working on, so next time I need to till, I'll have it ready. We got it all ready tilled, and got our perlite and fertilizer in here, and all ready to plant. We even got a little bit of help here from McCulloch Kitty. And, you know, he likes to be involved in our projects too, and so he looks here and he said, well, gee, maybe I can help fertilize that too, since you build me a giant cat box. Okay, well, we'll be back in a couple of weeks and see if we can keep McCulloch Kitty from fertilizing our beautiful garden bed here. Oh, look, he's getting ready.